I mean, I think from every decision, everything that you do, you can learn something. And obviously I learned that that's not what you should do, and I would never do that again.
One of the most commonly heard reasons for not acting on our values that people will give is that they'll say, I didn't have a choice. Giving voice to values is all about recognizing, first of all, that we all make the choice to act or not to act on our values every day. We all can think of times when we found ways to effectively voice our values. And we all can similarly think of times when we failed to do so. The point is, we have made a choice, and we can learn from this past experience.
We were upgrading one of our systems for one of our clients. They were going from an older version to a newer version, and they lost a functionality that they had in the past. So they had always been using this function, and it was no longer available on our new version. Standing up to my executives and saying, no, like this is, while I understand that they are our clients and we aren't going to do free work for them, this is something that they should have had, and I'm not going to go to them and say that they need to pay for it. My manager was fantastic. He really was open to hearing anything that you had to say ever since, he was my director, but even when I was had started and was a month into working, he was someone that you could very, very easily approach. It's one of those situations where if I just chose to say nothing, I'm sure my clients would have said, all right, we'll pay for it. But it just, for me, it was morally wrong. They shouldn't have to be the ones that paid for that enhancement, so.
If we reflect on the times when we have voiced our values, we can probably generate a list of the factors that made it easier for us to do so. The enablers. Perhaps we had a boss or a teacher or a friend who was very open-minded and was willing to patiently listen to our concerns. Perhaps the issue at stake was very important to someone we cared about deeply, and that made it easier for us to prioritize the situation.
When I was younger than 21, I didn't want to participate in underage drinking, which is common on a college campus, and there's many opportunities to participate in that. In that situation, it's probably best to bring a friend with you that also doesn't want to drink at a party. You're more likely to fall into peer pressure in that sense if you are there by yourself with everybody else who's participating, because you're just going to want to be with the crowd. But if you have someone that shares the same values with them, you're more likely to live how you want to live.
If we reflect on the times when we did not voice our values, we can generate a list of the types of things that made it more difficult for us, the disablers. Perhaps we were under tight time pressure, and the challenge caught us off guard with little time to prepare a response. Or maybe it was a close friend who was asking us to do something that conflicted with our values, and we didn't know how to say no to him or her.
In high school, I was very young. I had a boyfriend, my new boyfriend, and I had a best friend she had a boyfriend and was my boyfriend's cousin. So my best friend's boyfriend cheated on her, and of course I wanted to tell her because I don't want her to be in a relationship that's like that way. However, my boyfriend told me that if I told her, he would break up with me. I didn't end up telling her because I was in love with my boyfriend, even though she's my best friend, and I value that relationship immensely. I should have told her, but it wasn't an easy choice. And looking back on it, I know I made the wrong choice. But I think people in those situations, they do have a choice, but it's very hard to make the right choice.
By identifying these enablers and disablers, we can begin to think about them before we're in the actual high-pressure choice situation. For example, we can look to work in an organization that maximizes the enablers, a culture where open discussion is encouraged and where folks are not punished for raising questions. Equally important, we can understand the kinds of things that tend to disable us and practice responses in advance. For example, we can pre-script a response that we might use if a friend asked us to cheat in an exam. Something that made it clear that we still cared very much for them and were willing to help them to study in advance, but weren't willing to be dishonest or to cheat.
One time I was, in a way, kind of coerced into participating in getting one of my colleagues fired. I was asked to lie about seeing them commit an act that they did not commit at all. My relationship with my boss was definitely ruined. I think that, after I told him no, I wasn't gonna lie for him, I think that he felt like, he didn't want me around anymore, so. I lost my job 2 weeks later, yeah. At the end of the day, I built a better relationship with my colleague because I reached out to her about what they were doing. And so I think at the end of the day, I gained a friendship, and I lost a job that obviously wasn't for me.
By recognizing that we ourselves have made the choice to act or not to act on our values, it also makes it easier for us to recognize that capacity in others. And in that way, we'll feel more comfortable talking about our own values with them when necessary.
I think if you are working with a leader or manager that is difficult to approach and difficult to talk to, and that kind of makes you feel like you can't voice your opinions, in those situations, you're a lot more likely to take the I didn't have a choice route.
You can't feel pressure because other people are, hanging something over your head, or because you feel obligated to do something that you know is wrong. You have to understand that there's importance in, subscribing to these values, and that once you, accept these values, you have to adhere to them. I mean, even under the, most pressuring situations.
I think if I would have talked to maybe my mom or my other friends, they would have told me what I knew was logical. They would reinforce that in my brain, and I would have made the right decision.
And I think preparation is pretty key to doing it, because it's very hard to live ethically on the fly. So you got to know what you're dealing with, and when you're liable to make mistakes, and prepared to not make those mistakes.